also so prolonged because there are other publications that have strict deadlines during the mandate, and Epsilon newsletter doesn't have a regulated template, and the design process is quite trouble, has some quite troubles as well as the writing the script for it.
Okay, do you still have a technical other? Go ahead.
So first also just to remind you that, and I'm sorry for saying this, but you're speaking on behalf of the association of the secretary position in the entity.
Okay, but then we have a clarification from GPSF.
As Secretary, so we would like to ask you whether you think a month is not enough for the script of the design. 1.5?
Okay, first the direct from Apple.
So that's by Portugal, but this was also solvable by actually defining a template for the newsletter and just change it around every mandate.
Then we have a direct from Messenger.
Well, Vesperonia, newsletter was meant to be unique each mandate, so the template is not visible.
Apple.
So as well, and Portugal speaking by the experience of my own association, we also have newsletters, and of course each edition is unique, but you can have like a normalized template and then change it into something different each time we're publishing it.
Thank you. GPSF, do you still have a direct to what Apple said? Okay, go ahead. No? Drop. A new point? Okay. Then we have a new point from Apple.
Giuseppe, Portugal, just to also say that even though we're trying to get this change not being approved, we're also trying to suggest afterwards to change instead of having two newsletters to having only one, just to make this clear to the whole General Assembly.
Clarification from Marina.
Marina BPA, just that I understand correctly, it's to drop this change the whole proposal in one or three proposal and just this.
Okay.
Yeah, we can amend it. Yeah, that's also a possibility.
Okay, thank you. So then, if you want to amend the changes proposed by the executive, then you should propose an amendment, because right now we are voting on dropping or still keeping the changes. A clarification from Ahmed.
In Portugal, actually the end result is quite the same, right? So can you just actually go against this change and then propose a new one to just because the motion is already there, it's not dropping the proposal to amendment for it. Is it possible?
Technical from Gabriel.
Here, President, it really does not matter how we do it. It's not possible to propose regulation changes after 4 weeks before the GA, but you suggest an amendment and the proposer accepts the amendment. We will change it then. Now it says 2 issues of the FCC letter. We'll change it to 1 issue of the FCC letter. So this is what now will be in discussion.
Thank you. And we have a new point from GPSF dropped and a new point from APEP.
In Portugal, is it also possible to include a period of time fixed during the mandate to have it not published? So to regulate one issue of the newsletter by a specific date.
Gabriel?
Yeah, President, after consulting with our PR department, our suggestion is to leave torso only with 1, and then since the EFTA corporate identity can be changed in the Omanalist meetings, we can add something there regarding the time period later if that's possible.
Thank you. And there are no more points on the speaking list on this motion. Gabriel?
Gabriel President, I close the floor for discussion.
Thank you. I will read the motion again. The 64th EPSA General Assembly adopts the amended changes of the EPSA terms of reference to the Article 24.1.4.1 proposed by the Executive. This, I'll remind you, as it says, it requires 2/3 majority. So I will ask if there are any abstentions. Who is against? Please raise your voting cards up high. Technical from Gabriel?
Gabriel President, I believe there's some sort of confusion about what we're discussing, because since we accepted the amendment, now you are voting on whether you accept changing from 2 EPSA newsletters per mandate to 1 EPSA newsletter per mandate. So if you agree with changing from 2 to 1, you should vote for. If you don't agree, you should vote again. If you don't have an opinion, you should have had it.
Did everybody understand? Yes? Okay. So then we will read to technical from Hannah.
Just a small technical on my side, when we are voting right now, or when you are voting right now, please everybody raise your voting cards at the same time. Don't look around, because you are representing your association. And if you look around to see what others are voting on and you decide to vote like them, it is not okay. So when we ask you for your vote, please everybody raise it up high, because it is your association's opinion. Thank you.
Okay, and we will proceed with the voting. So then I will ask again if there are any abstentions to this motion. Who votes against? And who votes for? And there are 21 votes for, 2 against, and 0 abstentions. So the motion is carried. Technical from Gabriel.
Gabriel President, then since we have already passed this time period of the mandate that you should suggested that the 1 newsletter was done in, we would just like, on behalf of the executive, to assess the floor that if for this mandate, you would still want a newsletter taking into consideration that we will have the activity related in the beginning of the year. So if you still want us to release a newsletter for this mandate, do this. If not, do this.
Please everyone raise your hands.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And we will go on to the next motion. The 64th EPSA General Assembly adopts the amended changes of the EPSA terms of reference proposed by the executive. And I open the floor for discussion. Are there any new points? Abel?
Just first of all, we would like to know why are you like your motivation to propose to drop the science technical?
Just a small technical, because the science handbook will be on this the handbooks motion, and these are the terms of reference changes proposed. Point of information from Abel.
Well, Portugal is in the terms of regulation changes. There is a point saying that taking out the science they handle.
Yeah, thank you. Gabriel.
Gabriel President, sorry, it was also listed there because it's an official EPSA project. So we are proposing to drop it and keep the whole document, because we think it's useful as a document, as guidelines, like we have, for example, the scientific dispersion guidelines as guidelines, because a lot of the information there can be highly restrictive in terms of regulation if we have to do it like that and take some of the liberty away from the science coordinator when organizing this project. So we prefer to just have the EPSA torso paragraph that explains the baseline for it, that yes should be regulated because it is an official EPSA project, and then keep the rest as one document in the guidelines instead of just keeping, for example, a handbook with only the things that really need to be regulated, and then guidelines to complement it, because then it's just harder to use it as a working document.
Thank you. Are there any KMPSC?
Alien BC the Netherlands. So about paragraph 3, membership, and then article 3.8, you want to remove quite a bit of information because it's not necessary for the application of the ordinary and associate membership. But we were wondering, are you going to gather this information somewhere else? Like, is it stated somewhere else that you want to get this information from the associations?
Thank you, KMPSC. Marlene? Please, no discussions without speaking rules. Thank you. Go ahead, Marlene.
But in the BPA, so this information hasn't been gathered for years. Like, there is just, it used to be gathered, but it's not been gathered for years. And we're going against regulations all the time if we have it in here.
Correct. Okay, go ahead, KMPSC.
In KMPC the Netherlands, can you just explain why it was asked first and then it wasn't done anymore at all, even though it was still in there and now you're just removing it? What is the point of ever having done it?
Point of information from Marlene.
But in BPA, okay, maybe I wasn't clear, but it's like Torso is a very historical document that grows over the years. And this is one of these points that just stayed in there forever, basically, because back in the days, the EPSA used to work a little bit different. And for example, what we now have as Professional Qualities Directive or a methodology booklet, where we gather the information on a different way, used to be back in the day just send all the information at one point to EPSA, like randomly. And it's just nothing really that we could work with, like we in the, I don't know, 90s. And then it just stayed over the years in Torso. So it's not something, we did do it, but we did do it like 30 years ago or like 20 years ago.
KMPSC.
Elena KMPC the Netherlands, thank you for clarifying. But I'm still wondering, is this information from some of the members somewhere in a library and for some of them not? Like, can we read it?
Marlene.
But in BPA, some of the information might be in the archives. EPSA has a big problem with knowledge transfer, so I cannot give you any specifics on which information is where. There was also the North Central Working Group investigating exactly how this could be changed, and we did like improve our methods, but that doesn't mean that like information from the like decades before wasn't like partially lost. So I can't really like answer this question where exactly all those databases. We have random databases of random things. So if you have anything specific, we can always try to look at to find that information. But that's it.
KMPSC.
Elena KMPC Netherlands, last one. Do you want to? Does the team still want to, in a way, get some sort of this information from the member associations, or you decide with too much information, we don't care, we will ask what we need to know?
Marlene.
But in the BPA, so we still kind of gather this information, just not in the way it's stated here. So for example, all the content of the curricula was gathered in the Professional Qualities Directive. We also have information gathered by the methodology booklet. The information details necessary to add new members to existing databases is just ELS form. at the beginning where we just then add you to all the groups and everything and all the email things. So it is kind of standard, just not the way it's standard here. And since we do it anyway, but not like this, it makes no sense to like keep the whole paragraph.
Thank you. Are there any new points on this motion? GBSF?
Dr. disagrees. On the article 24.1.4, it states to drop the 2 issues of the EPSA newsletter. Sorry. The 24.1.4.2, 3 issues of the EPSA size application. We would just like to state that we understand the motivation behind this, but we would like to just stress that we feel this project is very important and this change does not discourage us from trying to have an SSP whenever.
Thank you, GPSF. Are there any new points on this motion? Gabriel?
Gabriel present, then I close the floor for discussion on the motion.
Thank you. Then I will read the motion again. The 64th EPSA General Assembly adopts the amended changes of the EPSA terms of reference proposed by the executive. I will ask if there are any abstentions. Who is against? And who votes for? And we have 23 votes for, none against and no abstentions, so the motion is carried unanimously. And we move on to terms of reference member changes. And we have a change proposed by GBSF Greece and seconded by APEF Portugal, and the motion reads: the 64th EPSA General Assembly adopts the amended changes of the EPSA terms of reference proposed by GBSF Greece and seconded by APEF Portugal. And I open the floor for discussion. Gabriel?
Gabriel present, I close the floor for discussion.
Thank you. Then we'll proceed on to voting. I ask if there are any abstentions on this motion. Is anyone against? And who votes for? And we have 23 votes for, none against and no abstentions, so the motion is carried unanimously. And we move on to standing orders, executive changes. And I will read the motion. The 64th EPSA General Assembly adopts the changes of the EPSA standing orders proposed by the executive. And I open the floor for discussion. Abel?
First of all, we just really wanted to state that to congratulate the executive on actually conducting these changes on the elections procedure, because this was a huge concern in the previous GA, and we're really happy and satisfied with the end results.
Thank you, Abel. Do we have any other new points on this motion? I don't see any. Gabriel?
Gabriel present, I close the floor for discussion.
Thank you. I will read the motion again. The 64th EPSA General Assembly adopts the changes of the EPSA standing orders proposed by the executive. I will ask if there are any abstentions. Is anyone against? And who votes for? And we have 23 votes for, none against and no abstentions, so the motion is carried unanimously. And we will move on to EPSA handbook approvals. These are the handbook changes to approve. I will read the motion. The 64th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes proposed by the executive to the following handbooks: the EPSA Executive Handbook, the EPSA Coordinators Handbook, the EPSA LS Handbook and its annexes, the EPSA Events Handbook and its annexes, the EPSA House Handbook, the EPSA Reports Handbook, the EPSA Training Project Handbook, the EPSA Library Handbook, the EPSA Archive Handbook, the EPSA TwinEd Project Handbook and its annexes, the EPSA Public Relations Handbook and its annexes, the EPSA Alumni Project Handbook, the EPSA Advocacy Platform Handbook, the EPSA Mentoring Project Handbook and its annexes, the EPSA Science Day Handbook and the LEAP Handbook, and I open the floor for discussion. Gabriel?
Gabriel, President, I would like to propose that BC asks one at a time and assess the floor for each so that we can go to the discussion.
Okay, we will do exactly that. So then I ask the floor if there are any questions on the EPSA Executive Handbook. I see none. So then we'll move on to the EPSA Coordinators Handbook. Are there any new points on these changes? And I see none. The EPSA LS Handbook and its annexes. Professor Ferrer?
That's very well. We saw that executive wants to implement the regulation that says that the official delegates are responsible for their delegation and they are kind of have to take care of the participants from their country. And we think this is not the role of the official delegates. They have to prepare for the General Assembly. They have to be well prepared for the sessions, the discussions. I think, in fact, this already happens. All these kind of take care about their members from their country, but we don't think we have to regulate this.
Thank you, Professor Ferrer. And we have a direct from Marlene.
Marlene BPA. You're right, it already happens, and this is exactly why we propose to write it down. This is also what I stress out and mention in every ELS training, and the ELS handbook is also for LSs to refer for information on what's happening. And yeah, this is why exactly is the current practice. This has been standing practice from at least longer than I have been in EPSA, why we propose to write it down.
Thank you. Then Professor Ferrer. Dropped. Then we have a new point from Anne.
Manon and France, I think that the ERC has enough to do during GA, so each association should be responsible of the participants.
Thank you, Anne. Do we have a new point from Abel? No? Okay, thank you. And we have no more points on the speaking list, so I think it's concluded with the EPSA LS Handbook and its annexes. And so we'll move on to the EPSA Events Handbook and its annexes. Are there any new points on this?
So regarding the RC budget guidelines, the point 1.2.3 about the meals, I would like to know why remove the second part. So about the sandwiches, maybe resort to sandwiches, although it's highly recommended not to have them at food executive days. We think this should stay in because there is not like a warm meal and it should not be a common practice to have sandwiches and lunch.
Thank you, Shisuda. Technical Marlene. Gabriel, go ahead.
Gabriel, President, of course, if it's possible, it's good that it doesn't happen, but we don't want to have anything restricting the RCs if we can avoid it. So we propose to change it because of that. It doesn't make it mandatory that it has to happen.
Then we have the PhD.
Janina, PhD, also I think this amendment could help us make the events more peaceful And B, if you want to have free time in the afternoon, it's the easiest. And we all also want to see something on facilities. And so I prefer that as a change.
Thank you. Are there any new points on the events handbook and its annexes? I don't see any, so then I think we can move on to the next one, the EBSA house handbook. New points on this? Anem?
So I want to know, is that possible to explain the part of each member has 30 lives? Why are you put
Clarification? PhD? No.
could you please find out the page for a second?
Okay. Don't forget your name and position. Go ahead, Anem.
Mario Alexandre, page 30.
Okay, Gabriel.
Gabriel, President. So what we discussed is that we should have a limit that would give the interns still the possibility to have friends over and just because that's their home for the year, but also that doesn't incur too many funds spent by EBSA with the house's expenses. So we gave it a total of 1 month worth of nights at the EBSA house per intern to be generous, but also to restrict the use of this possibility.
Thank you. Are there any new points on the EBSA house handbook? Apo, technical?
Annika, first I could close the windows again because it's getting increasingly difficult to understand anything that's said on that part of the room. Thank you.
Yes, for closing the windows. No, for not closing the windows. Okay, then we'll close them. Scrutineers, I will ask you to please help us to close the windows. Thank you very much. Okay, now that the windows are closed, are there any other new points on the EBSA house handbook? I don't see any, so we can move on to the EBSA reports handbook. Any points on this? I don't see any. Then we'll move on to the next one, the EBSA training project handbook. Are there any new points on the changes on this? I don't see any, and then we'll move on to the EBSA library handbook. Are there any new points on this? I don't see any. The EBSA archive handbook. Are there any new points on this? I don't see any. The EBSA TwinNet project handbook and its annexes. Any new points on this? I don't see any. And we'll move on to the EBSA public relations handbook and its annexes. Any new points on this? I don't see any. The EBSA alumni project handbook. Are there any new points on this? I don't see any. The EBSA advocacy platform handbook. Any new points on this? I don't see any. The EBSA mentoring project handbook and its annexes. Any new points on this? I don't see any. The EBSA Science Day handbook. Any new points on this? And I don't see any. And lastly, the LEAP handbook. Any new points on the LEAP handbook? I don't see any. Gabriel?
Gabriel, President, and I close the floor for discussion.
Okay. And I will read the motion again. The 64th EBSA General Assembly approves the changes proposed by the EBSA Executive to the following handbooks: the EBSA Executive Handbook, the EBSA Coordinators Handbook, the EBSA LS Handbook and its annexes, the EBSA Events Handbook and its annexes, the EBSA House Handbook, the EPSA reports handbook, the EPSA training project handbook, the EPSA library handbook, the EPSA archive handbook, the EPSA Twinnet project handbook and its annexes, the EPSA public relations handbook and its annexes, the EPSA alumni project handbook, the EPSA advocacy platform handbook, the EPSA mentoring project handbook and its annexes, the EPSA science day handbook and the LEAP handbook. And I will ask if there are any abstentions from this motion. Who is against? And who votes for? And there are 23 votes for, none against and no abstentions, so the motion is carried unanimously. And we will move on. Gabriel?
Gabriel President, then since the lunch is only starting at 12:30, can we start with member motions?
Okay, do we agree to start with the member motions? Okay, then we will go on. Let me just update the presentation real quick. Gabriel?
Gabriel President, the lunch is at 1. Sorry.
And we will move on with the member motions. The first motion reads, the 64th EPSA General Assembly mandates the EPSA team to start a working group to investigate the implementations of actions on diversity that are stated in the EPSA in the Code of Conduct. This motion shall be achieved until the 65th GA, the latest, and shall not be reviewed. This motion is proposed by AFO Austria and seconded by PPHP Germany. And I open the floor for and I ask the proposer to please state your motivation regarding this motion. So please raise your point.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's already asked. Sorry. Annika from Austria. So we want to tell you our motivation. So with this motion, AFIP intends for EPSA to investigate more into how the diversity is supported and promoted within the whole association, so that member organizations can learn from each other and as well from EPSA itself. Like this, they get a chance to improve the accessibility to all opportunities for everyone. We find it important to make every facet of diversity more visible and to start including and advocating more for our members with, for example, disabilities in general. We want to emphasize here that especially currently we see people with physical and or mental disabilities mostly overseen within the talks about diversity. So we want to include them more. Thank you.
Thank you, AFO. PPHD.
PPHD Germany, we second this because we think that we don't need to define diversity, even though we have it in our code of conduct, and we think it's important to investigate what diversity in the sense of within EPSA is, so we can say how much it aligns with our members' association, and so that we as members can take a stand on what we think about it and what we think needs to be done.
Thank you, PPHD, and I open the floor for discussion. Abel?
So to Abel Portugal, we would just like to state our full support to this motion because we really think that it is extremely important to define diversity in all these EPSA environments so we can actually know how to act and how to react to any kind of adversity or situation that becomes along the way.
Thank you. Are there any more new points on this motion? AFO?
Annika of Austria, we would like to propose amendments to the motion. So we would like to change it to not having the EPSA team to start a working group to investigate, but to have the EPSA exec to investigate, and also we don't want it to be achieved until the 65th GA, the latest, but we would like to have it achieved until the 66th, and have an intermediate report until the 65th, which is the next one. So I forgot the number of the procedural motion, that's why I'm wasting the point. Thank you.
Thank you. You can just say the amendment and it will be introduced in the motions because you are the proposers. So that we can write it down. BPHD, do you have a direct? Yeah, go ahead.
To use a PhD, we would also we would also prefer to have an investigation that goes for a long period of time because we see that it is a very broad subject and there has not been any clear investigations or definitions been done so far. So we think that an intermediate report will help us already narrow down what we think needs more investigation. So this way we can work that.
Technical from Mihal. Technical break, sorry. One second. Okay, before taking the new point, I will also ask you PhD so that you agree with the motion that is written down. Okay, we have confirmation. And we will move on with the speaking list. We have KNPSV.
Alma KNPSV the Netherlands, we totally support this motion, but we were wondering where is going to be stated what diversity will entail once this investigation has taken place.
Gabriel?
It's a new point, not a direct to remind this. Okay. Gabriel, President, on behalf of the executive, we would just like to say that we support this motion. Thank you for accepting our changes regarding the organization of the actual investigation.
KNPSV?
Alma KNPSV the Netherlands, can someone answer the questions I previously asked?
Can you ask the question again?
So my online KNPSV the Netherlands, my question was where it's going to be stated after the investigation has been done what diversity entails, like what the outcome of the investigation will be.
Gabriel?
Gabriel, President. So in the Code of Conduct, we have listed all the types of diversity that EBSA recognizes. So basically, we will have to decide still among executive how to structure the investigation, but the investigation will be around how we are doing right now in terms of inclusivity for each of those diversity types that are included in the EBSA Code of Conduct, and we would finish the investigation with exactly how we are proceeding towards each of them and towards the inclusivity of each of the groups. And then after this investigation is done, there can be or not a working statement to implement the results of the investigation, to follow up on certain things, both from our sides or the members. So this will be decided after the investigation is done.
Thank you. Are there any new points on this motion? I don't see any. Gabriel?
Dear President, and I close the floor for discussion.
And I will read the motion again. The 64th EBSA General Assembly mandates the EBSA Executive to investigate the implementation of actions of diversity that are stated in the Code of Conduct. This motion shall be achieved until the 66th General Assembly the latest and shall not be reviewed. An intermediate report shall be presented by the 65th General Assembly the latest. I will ask if there are any abstentions. Anyone against? And who votes for? We have 23 votes for, none against and no abstentions, so the motion is carried unanimously. And we will proceed with the next motion on the agenda, proposed by PPSA United Kingdom and seconded by ACOP Austria. I will read the motion. The 64th General Assembly mandates the EFSA Executive 2020-2023 to write and publish an official declaration that pledges EFSA will support and advocate for the LGBTQI+ community from the pharmacy perspective. Once written, this should be published on EFSA social media channels, including but not limited to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. This shall be achieved by the 65th General Assembly and shall not be reviewed. I will ask BPSA United Kingdom to present their motivation.
Arthur, BPSA United Kingdom. The Assembly, BPSA UK is proud to propose this motion which mandates EFSA to publish a declaration on showing support to our LGBTQI+ community from a pharmacy perspective. Stigma discrimination challenges have long been surrounding our LGBTQ+ patients. Dispensing of hormonal treatment for transgender patients being rejected, gay men being labeled as money patients, HIV being called gay disease, prejudice from healthcare professionals, disproportionate mental health problems, lack of recognition and representation within education of their sexuality and gender identity. All too often we still hear them from Europe nowadays. Patients afraid of reaching out, pharmacy cannot keep up with the new needs of LGBTQ+ patients. Pharmacists struggle to use their full potential to help this group of patients. We have enough. Pharmacy, being a frontier of healthcare where patients can access easily for healthcare advice, should be a safe space for patients from this community and a safe and active profession for students in this field. BPSA understands that EFSA is going to have a joint project on anti-discrimination with IPSF Europe, where such statements will be able to fit in. This serves as a good administrative opportunity for which EFSA can execute this motion and enrich their joint program. BPSA believes that this also improves EFSA engagement in this joint project with IPSF. Since IPSF Europe has already adopted the Rainbow Future motion, and IPSF will release similar statements in the near future after the World Congress this summer, which are of relevance to the project. As an expert in pharmacy, European pharmacy student affairs, it is of significant importance for EFSA to be updated with what is happening around pharmacy students and pharmacy in Europe. This motion will serve as a good and healthy driving force for EFSA in doing its role in supporting students in pharmacy and collaboration with IPSF. We understand this is a breakthrough for EFSA and other member organizations. We therefore are open to any questions regarding to this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, BPSA. Does the second, okay, go ahead, Apple.
Annika out of Austria. We also would like to state our motivation. As we have observed in recent years, LGBTQI+ topics play a role in a wide variety of public health issues. Therefore, we believe that raising awareness and acknowledging our responsibility as the pharmacists of tomorrow is crucial for EFSA to further strengthen its role as relevant voice in the field of healthcare. We need to see LGBTQI+ topics not as a social cause, but as a crucial part of public health, and as such, it is our responsibility to contribute our voice from a pharmacy perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will open the floor for discussion. A technical from BPSA.
After BPSA would like to propose a modification on the deadline of the last sentence. So we would like to change it from it shall be achieved by July 2023, for example, and instead of the 52 GA
Technical from Martina?
For the UBPI, I was taking notes. Can you repeat because I didn't understand what you want to change it to?
Right, okay. BPSA, Arthur, BPSA United Kingdom, and we would like to change the deadline of this motion being carried, of being executed from 65th GA to the July 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, BPSA. Alpha?
Annika of Austria, we agree with this amendment because it works better together with the planned public health campaign because it would then be more or less at the same time. So this would first make it easier for the people who are working on it, and second also would make a strong voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabriel?
Do you have a preference? First, thank you for making the changes suggested. I do have to say, however, that the executive is against the approval of this motion. We do understand the importance of the topic, which is the reason why we will be collaborating with IPSF for a zero discrimination campaign in June next year. However, we only released written declarations for our main advocacy projects, and we don't believe that EBSA should have social causes as its main advocacy project. Albeit from a pharmacy perspective, this is still a social cause, and that's the focus of other associations that we either collaborate with or are members of, such as the European Students' Union. We would also like to remind members that the advocacy platform was created so that you have a voice in EBSA's advocacy, so you're always welcome to write a statement yourselves and bring it to this platform so that EBSA and or other members can endorse your work on it, or even so that after a discussion on the content and the wording and stuff between all EBSA members, we can adopt it as part of our policies.
Thank you. Then we have BPSA.
Commissioner BPSA Poland. I would like to thank you for coming as well. I support it on my personal level, but for our association, this is really political matter, and we wouldn't be able to share any, we cannot publish it basically, because in Poland, as you probably know, it's not really good for, associations on political level, and this is really political case for Poland, so we cannot support it.
Thank you. Then we have a direct from BPSA.
Arthur, BPSA United Kingdom. Thank you for the comment on Poland. However, BPSA would like to draw the attention that this issue is not political. It is healthcare issues, from a healthcare point of view, whether it's about politics or not, these people still exist and their needs should not be overridden because of political or being defined as politics. Thank you.
Please listen to each other and stop. Don't be quiet when someone is raising a point. So then we will move on to BPSA with a direct.
Olivia, BPSA Poland. So I will just refer back to my sentence. I said it's political case in Poland. So I don't know how it's in other countries, but in Poland it's really political, and we will keep the voice stable.
Thank you, BPSA. And we have a new point from Carolina.
Hi, Carolina. I would like to have a question for the proposal second. How are you envisioning gathering this data? Because you want to have a statement about the LGBTQ plus community in pharmacy, but this data is not well researched. So how in this short period of time do you want to find consistent and good data that EBSA can support their statement?
BPSA.
On the BPSA United Kingdom, thank you for your query. BPSA would like to stress that this is not a data collection project, and it's about making a declaration statement. So it is just to show support and advocacy. Perhaps you could explain what kind of data that you're expecting.
Thank you. Then we have a direct question from Alpha.
Annika of Austria. We just want to stress that there is data about the LGBTQI plus community in healthcare, and we could use that. And there has been done a lot of research already in many countries to that. So we believe EPSA could use this kind of data, but also we want to stress that it's working like it could. EPSA could let this work together with the public health campaign. So it would be a bit less work because they are doing 2 in 1, basically.
Thank you, Carolina with the direct.
Carolina, my point was that you and your motivation stated that the AIDS is the disease of gay men. So this has to be supported by data, facts. It cannot be a statement just from matter. And yes, I do agree that there's already data, but we in EPSA have to have data gathered from our members. We cannot have data from, for example, United States. I mean, if you want to have a declaration from EPSA, you have to have data from EPSA and their members.
Thank you, but I would like to remind you not to raise 2 points during one direct, and now clarification from the PhD.
PhD. I'm pretty sure there's a statement, for an example, of the monkeypox out there from the you know. So we could use that, right?
Thank you. I think that was a new point, so please remember that. I hope, no, PPSA, do you still have a direct to what the PPHD said?
So regarding to data sources, there are different member states would have their own health agency that will provide information. For example, in the UK, we have the NHS, Charity in US, and other those are well-renowned resource and research institutes. Not only do they produce clinical data, but also produce pharmacy practice and clinical practice data. And I would like the room, if they want to know more, pay more attention on these resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Technical from Martine?
For the UPA, you mentioned NHS and which other abbreviation?
Heritage Trust.
Thank you. Then Carolina, do you still have a direct?
Carolina Luna. Okay, can I go on? Okay. Carolina Luna. Yes, we do have that data, but I'm just pointing out you have a very, very short deadline to gather it from all members of EPSA. I know that you in the United Kingdom might be able to gather that data very easily and very quickly. But you have to remember there are so many more associations that you need data from that for this statement to be correct and be published by EPSA, it has to be done by all. And as the past Vice President of Internal Affairs, I can tell you people do not do their jobs and it takes a fucking long time. I'm sorry.
Please watch your language during the
to gather information. So this is a great statement, but the time period is very, very short. If you want to do it correctly, take time, think about it, don't do it quickly. Take time, gather accurate information, have time to go back to your boards, to your people, to have the declaration you want. In a year, it is impossible to have such a big statement done by EPSA.
I'll talk with a direct.
Annika, Austria, Carolina, what time would you suggest to us?
Carolina?
Carolina Luna, honestly, I don't know how it looks in all the other associations. It would be the best for you to lay it on the table and then decide until the next year and then decide how much time you need. Because for example, yes, in the UK you have that data, but I personally don't know if we gathered that information in Poland, and I don't know how many of you know if you gathered that kind of information in your country. So first figure out if you have that information and if you can gather it and then set a deadline.
Thank you. Direct from BPSA.
After BPSA United Kingdom, BPSA would like to point out a conflict of points here that Desmond Line pointed out that it will take ages to do it, but there wasn't a definite timeline. It sounds to me that if we're going to put it on the table, it's going to take forever. And think about that is that I think if we collaborate together, it will work. But I just want to point out that there is this conflict in the speeches about the timing, and we should consider based on our own capacity rather than a general overview. Thank you.
Thank you. PPHD, do you still have a direct to what BPSA said? No? Arthur? Point of information from Gabriel?
Dear President, just to inform you that lying on the table is not an indefinite action. You say lie on the table until a specified time, and you have to approve that deadline.
Point of information, Gabriel?
Dear President, another point of information from our side, just to confirm what Caroline is saying, that all our policy and policy work is based on data, like our statements of opinion and policy papers.
Thank you. Arthur?
Annika, Austria, we're not sure about laying it on the table because the thing is, will we then have more information? Will the member organizations have asked or have checked if they can gather this information? So if we would do something that we would prefer to have like some sort of investigation for the member organizations if they can gather this kind of data, if it's really needed, because otherwise we're going to be at the same point in the next GA and then we will never proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be quiet while someone is raising a new point because we have to listen to what everybody has to say. Go ahead, Shusas.
Yeah, Slovenia, in regard to your point about having more information, if this is something that we decide to lay on the table and address another time, I think it would be up to not the proposer and the seconder, other organizations as well, member associations as well, to investigate this until then. So how much information you have until then, basically up to you or up to all of us.
Thank you. I would like to remind you that if you want to propose a motion to lay this motion on the table, you have to propose a 9.6 procedural motion, just so you know, FYI. And we have a new point from Shusas.
We believe this is not exactly something that should be achieved with a motion or with a declaration, as we don't think it will make such a difference. Instead, we would like to encourage the proposer and the seconder and every other member association, for that matter, to find a point of view on this topic that you want to advocate for and just do it. And we believe other associations will join wherever they can, and EPSA will join as well. So for this matter, we are against the motion.
Direct from the PSA.
After BPSA United Kingdom, BPSA would like to remind that that was just a pure mere speculation and based on very solid facts. Thank you.
Thank you, BPSA, and we have a new point from direct from AFO. No technical from AFO.
Annika, could you repeat because I'm understanding? Thank you.
Can you please repeat BPSA?
My apologies. After BPSA United Kingdom, BPSA would like to remind that what our Slovenian colleagues said was based on their speculation, but not solid facts. Thank you.
Yeah, Slovenia, I think that you might have misunderstood me. All I meant was that the best precedent was maybe to do it and ask other associations to join instead of making a declaration first and waiting for others to do the work.
Thank you. Technical from Gabriel.
Dear President, I would just like to remind the floor of what I stated in the beginning of the General Assembly, that we're here to have fruitful discussions, not to be going against each other. We're here to discuss the best for European pharmacy students, so I would ask you to please refrain from more aggressive tone for the state.
Thank you. Afo, do you still have a direct?
Annika, also it doesn't have to be a direct to the technical?
No.
Okay, then I still have a direct. Annika, out of Austria, we just want to state that this should be a declaration for the whole of the EPSA region, if you can call it like this, and not a statement, for example, just for Austria, because we could easily do a statement for Austria, but it's more that the whole of EPSA region stands together on this topic, because it's so different in different countries perceived. So we would like to have the EPSA perception of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have a new point from APEP. Direct from BPHD, sorry.
We would also like to agree that we think this is very much connected to the EPSA idea, representing all of every intelligent student, as well as nursing, like best practice.
Okay, but please remember that that was a new point and not a direct to what Alpo just said. And don't forget your name and position. Albert, go ahead.
Just what I propose, so we understand that this is a very sensitive matter for a lot of countries, and we do understand that for us it is a question of human rights, and we think that this is something that EPSA must have in consideration. However, we also think that EPSA's main goal is to represent pharmaceutical students. So this should be something based on pharmaceutical students' perspective. And in that case, we fully support this motion because we think that therefore we will be representing pharmaceutical students. But if we're doing this based on data that is not from pharmaceutical students represented by EPSA, then we're not following up with EPSA's goals.
If you have another new point, then we will take you after, and we will proceed with the points, because we must have a fruitful discussion. And we have Anne.
Good. At first, we didn't support LGBTQ plus community, but after just check, we are progressive students, so it should be more like the student union should do it, because we have to do it in a way that supports pharmacy students, and this motion is not good doing it, so that's why we don't support this motion, and we think we have to do it in another way, or other members or association should do it themselves.
Thank you, Anne. And then we have Derek from Alpo.
Annika out of Austria. So we agree with you that we would like to have the pharmacy students' perspective. We would like to have the information from the associations as well as big stakeholders from the country. But the thing is, what would you suggest? Because you say you would be for it if it was from the pharmacy students' perspective, but then you would like to have a suggestion. Is it about the time again, or is it just that you don't like the declaration? Thank you.
Anne?
Please, and for example, last year, I did a survey on sexual harassment. We did it at a national level, and then we presented at the annual reception, I think, and then EPSA also, they did support us. We have a national data, and we can let more advocate for this topic. And so, our suggestion is to do it at first the national level, and then present it to EPSA with data.
Annika of Austria, we understand your point, and we really enjoyed your statement about sexual harassment. However, it was a French statement, and it is different in Austria, for example, and we would like to represent in the statement all EPSA member organizations, which is not the case if it is done on a national level and then presented to EPSA, and then EPSA shares its national statement. Thank you.
Okay.
For Portugal, we were actually giving this example as well that worked on this topic. And I think that the point is, we're not saying that we should do this at a national level and then present it to APSA and then APSA will support us, but we're actually saying that APSA could be conducting this kind of study with all member associations and then gather these data in a European level. The same way we do with our students at a national level, APSA will do this with their member associations at a European level.
Thank you. And then we have Afo with a new point. Is it a new point or a direct to what Afo said?
I think it's that one.
Go ahead.
Annika, but that's also kind of what we want, like what you're saying about why we don't really understand the critics to that motion.
Abel?
Susanna, first of all, what you read in this motion, you're saying to write and publish an official declaration that pledges absolute support and advocate for the LGBTQI+ community from the pharmacy perspective. But there's no any point saying that we're actually trying to gather some data about our students, things that APSA represents, and then, like, with the results that we're gathering, because nobody's telling us that we're actually getting results saying that what the students are not prepared to handle this kind of situation in their professional life, for example. So we're already assuming the results. We're not even trying to actually gather data to support an advocacy strategy. So that is our main critic to this motion.
If you have that, then we have PhD with the direct, no, dropped, it's a new point. And then we have PPSA with the direct.
Yeah, PPSA UK. We don't have anything about data written in the actual motion, and that's because if EPSA do support and advocate for the LGBTQI+ community and release a statement, the work doesn't end there, it can continue, and actually it helps to start a conversation where we can gather more data and actually do all the things that we're discussing here.
Point of information from Carolina.
Carolina, not any statement published by EPSA has to be supported by data. Any statement, even if we say the sky is blue, we cannot just state it because we can see. We have to have data. Anything that EPSA publishes has to be supported by data.
Thank you. Apep, do you no, direct from BPSA?
Director of PPSA UK, apologies if there was a misunderstanding. I don't mean to say that we don't need data. I'm saying if there are gaps in the data, that doesn't necessarily mean that we should wait before we actually advocate on important topics with this.
SFRA with the direct?
That is clear, yeah. So we think that we first have to be to pay very much attention to the data. We have to have a clear view over this, and after that we can advocate. An advocacy statement without data is just a political work.
Thank you, Pastor Pere. Abel, with any point?
After Portugal. At the same time, we are kind of thinking, like, yeah, we're supportive by like every single human, like by human rights in general, but why are we targeting a very specific community that is so much larger than the one that we represent? Does that make sense?
General agreement, so it makes sense. Gabriel?
Hero President, which is why our work in the Zero Discrimination campaign will target several types of discrimination.
Thank you. There's a 9.3 proposed by PTSO, but no one is seconding it, so it is not discussed. PhD with a new point.
PhD, Teresa. Would it be more okay for all the members involved to integrate this and the investigation, the collection of data into the motion that we stated as the first one of today, the first member motion, and then see afterwards what kind of. Okay, sorry. Okay, generally the idea, if everybody can hear me right now, is that we can just implement the idea of selecting the data as well as maybe figuring out the statement at the next GA within the investigation that we started today in the first member motion.
Any points on this? No other new points on the speaking list. We have Pacific.
Welcome to so to conclude, we think that we have to have a clear timeline for this. We first have to gather more data, especially from our pharmacy students, and after that to advocate regarding this data. And to sum up, Professor Trent does not support this motion as in this form, just after we clear the timeline.
Thank you, Professor Perez. Abel?
Just to try to clarify a bit of the previous point. What we meant is that the LGBTQI plus community is so much wider than the pharmaceutical science community that we're trying to represent. So we can't really just target this audience without actually firstly realizing if it is a problem in the community we actually represent, which are pharmaceutical students. So the point is, like, if we are trying to firstly realize if that's a problem that we're facing, and we need to really understand that and not only suppose that, then it would make sense to actually advocate and support this specific situation. But firstly, we need to actually have evidence about it. That's why we think that this motion, like, is not that clear of how to act.
Thank you. I saw that there was general agreement, and we have PTSD with the diet.
I agree. I agree that we should definitely take a stand on pharmacy students' opinion on this, but I think if we want to do data collection, if we want to know our opinion about it, we should also integrate the fact that our patients are also LGBTQI+. So I think that is also like a part that we cannot underestimate, but I think it's important that we do data collection.
Thank you. Then Alco with the diet.
Annika out of Austria, we just want to state that, of course, we are students today, but we are professionals tomorrow, and our student time should prepare us for our professional time. So we really need to know how to tackle the problems that will come to us as in the form of patients. And we should all be aware how to handle different patient cases, and this could help everyone to do so.
Okay.
But that's the thing. Like in a surgery, while we are in data, you can ask students, do you think that LGBTQI plus people are being supported in your country? Do you feel that your studies prepare you for actually treating them like in a pharmacy or something? That's something that we can also collect while listening to them and gathering their position on.
Then we have a direct from CTPSA.
Dominique, I think the Czech Republic, we agree with that one. I think that everything that it was just said could be investigated through advocacy platform.
That's a general agreement. And we have one last new point from BPSA.
In the UK, I'd like to remind everyone that the longer we let this go and prolong it to gather data or do any investigations for that much time, all of the pharmacy students that we represent in our respective member associations are not getting the education and support they need to be able to support this patient group.
CTPSA.
Dominica did be in the Czech Republic, so but if it was like just until the next GA, it wouldn't really postpone it that much. And since if you also investigating the problems for the advocacy platform, that the work is going to be done right away. So it's not like we're not going to do anything about it.
Then Pastor Kura, technical from BPSA.
Also, BPSA United Kingdom. BPSA has listened to the voices of this room. We believe that the LGBTQ+ students should be supported. But in order for thorough discussion or investigations from a European level, we propose to modify the motion to A, first of all, as a clause, saying that they will do a survey and declaration. So publish an official survey and declaration. And also, we recognize the time-consuming or time limit in this motion. We therefore would propose to extend the deadline. So instead of this shall be achieved by July 2023, we put it into the 66 GA. Yeah.
Technical from Mihal. Mihal, you see, could I just ask for clarification about the beginning of the motion? Could you just repeat how you wanted to phrase it? We'll display it on the screen so that everyone can see.
On that, we can consider that first of all, the first part would be to add the word publish, after the word publish, a survey, and then act in. And then, do I need to do the second one? Yeah.
Is the motion okay right now?
I can't use it in a place word. Yeah, that's what we did.
Is it okay? BPA? Okay. Does the secondary agree? Go ahead.
Annika of Austria, we agree, but we also want to ask if we should do a timeline or deadline for the survey. Is that necessary? That's also a question at the exact thing.
Gabriel?
Euro President Executive needs 3 minutes.
Three-minute break, but please remember that the standing orders are still in place, so please be quiet and wait for the executive to finish the discussion.
Gabriel?
Gabriel present, sorry to the wait. So, we've discussed it among the executive, and clearly, and I think this is an agreement between the floor, this is something that this is a bigger investigation that is hard to conclude in this short amount of time. For those of you that were present at the team meeting, you saw that for our next methodology booklet, which does collect data from the pharmacy curricula, one of the subtopics that we'll be adopting is communication with patients, so we can include the question, or several questions, on the survey is so short, on the communication with LGBTQIA plus students. We will also continue to work on the Zero Discrimination campaign together with ITSF Europe. And we would just like to remind you that the wording of this motion itself does kind of contradict the fact that EFSA does their positions based on data, because we're going off the principle that EFSA needs to support this. So like this is a mistake already. When you're going to collect data, you already have to collect data to support this. So yeah, these are the solutions that we have for now to start advocating as soon as possible for LGBTQIA plus students. And we do still believe that this is why the advocacy platform was created, for you to discuss and bring to every meeting any topic that you would like to discuss further. So yeah, we are still against this motion, but we are very much for doing all that we can in our work to try to include your suggestions, just in line with the way that EFSA does policy and advocacy.
Thank you. Technical from BPSA.
Based on what happened, executive said we would like to modify the motion, adding the word accordingly after official declaration, such that there is no presumption that publication will have been published. In that case, the result of the survey will determine the declaration instead of publishing with the results.
Can clarification from Gabriel?
Gabriel, can you read the new motion?
Yes. So, the 64th General Assembly mandates the EPSA Executive 2022-2023 to write and publish a survey and an official declarations accordingly such that pledges EPSA will support and advocate for the LGBTQI+ community from the pharmacy perspective. Once written, this should be published on EPSA social media channels, including but not limited to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. This shall be achieved by the 66th General Assembly and shall not be refused. Does the seconder agree with the modification that the LSA proposed? Do you want to do that new point? Direct? Do you agree? You can just say that you agree.
We do agree on the word, but we think that it's still assuming because of the word support. So we would like to ask BPSA if they agree with cutting the word support. Will advocate, like up to the end, because otherwise it doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah.
Thank you, Apple. BPSA? You agree with Apple's proposal? Okay. So please clarify again, which exact part of the motion do you want deleted? Go ahead, yeah.
Annika of Austria, the support and what's the end? Yeah. Will advocate.
Okay, thank you. BPSA, is that okay? Okay. Gabriel? No, sorry. It was Apple first, then you want.
Joseph, in Portugal, we are actually thinking and proposing to change it a little bit more. So we are proposing the 64th General Assembly mandates the EPSA Executive to 2022-2023 to conduct a survey on the topic of the LGBTQI+ community from the pharmacy perspective. And then this shall be achieved by 66 General Assembly and shall not be reviewed. I think everything else sounds good.
CDPSA?
So we can use the proposal like if it's until the 66, but does it have to just say that it's the executive of this year?
Gabriel? Gabriel.
Gabriel President, yeah, you have to just remove the years of executive.
Technical Gabriel?
Gabriel President, I would just like to remind you that when an amendment is proposed, you have to ask the proposer to seconder if they agree, and if not, you have to ask if there's a seconder for APE's proposal to see if we then go to vote on the amendment.
APE?
Joseph, in Portugal, is there a seconder for the motion I propose?
Does the seconder and the proposer agree with APE's amendment to the motion? The proposer does not agree. Is there a seconder to APE's? The proposer does not agree. So is there a seconder to APE's motion, PPHD? So we have an amendment on this motion proposed by APEF and seconded by the PhD. 1 minute to write it down. Gabriel?
Gabriel President, now we have to vote on whether to accept or not the amendment, not on the motion. So everyone has to be not on the content of the motion, just on changing the motion to the motion.
Yes. Clarification from APEF?
Please, could you repeat? I was not clear. Sorry.
Now we will have to vote on the amendment that you have proposed. So not on the motion, on the amending the motion that has been proposed. Technical from Al. We hope we see. Could I just ask Abba to repeat it please once again? Sorry. Yes, Abba.
Just in Portugal, so the 64th General Assembly mandates the EFSA executive to conduct a survey regarding the LGBTQI plus community from a pharmacy perspective. These shall be achieved by 66th General Assembly and shall not be reviewed.
Okay, thank you. And we open the floor for discussion on the amendment. We have a 9.3 proposed by BPHD, seconded by BFSO. And I open the floor for discussion on the 9.3. I would like to remind you that 9.3 is to close the discussion on the amendment that has been proposed. Are there any new points? BPSA?
Brianna from BPSA UK, we haven't had a chance to actually discuss the amendment at all, and so I think there's always benefit of having a more discussion before we actually go ahead and vote.
Thank you. Are there any other new points? I don't see any. Gabriel?
Gabriel President, I close the discussion on the 9.3.
Okay, then we will proceed to voting on the 9.3. I will ask if there are any abstentions on closing the discussion to vote on the amendment. If there is anyone against the 9.3, please, everybody, raise your cards up high and at once. 7. And who votes for the 9.3? Okay, and we have 16 votes for, 7 against, and no abstentions. So the floor is closed, and we will proceed on with voting on the amendment. So the amendment proposed by APEL Portugal and seconded by BPHD Germany. And I will ask if there are, sorry, Gabriel?
Dear President, the executive would ask the proposer and seconder to amend it from a pharmacy perspective to a pharmaceutical student's perspective.
Thank you. The proposer and seconder agree? Okay. Hope technical? Go ahead.
Annika, also, wasn't the floor for discussion closed? Thank you. So, but,
Yes, the floor for discussion was closed, and we have to proceed on to voting because the 9.3 was carried.
The floor for discussion was closed only on the 9.3, from what I gathered. So it was not closed on the amendment and then now the motion.
Okay. Okay. And can we proceed on to voting on the amendment? No points, and we will proceed NPSV.
In KPC, the Netherlands, so we we like to stress that we also really support the LGBTQI plus community, and we really appreciate that the point is being brought up that EPSA also gets involved in a way, even though national associations can obviously do this, there's still, it's maybe kind of easier when one national association cannot get involved, that then EPSA can like spread that word, so the actual members can still do it instead of having like the association getting in conflict with their own country, if that makes sense. So we're happy that it's being brought up, but with this motion now, we fear that it may be, again, like will take quite some long time for actually this being put into action. So we would suggest that maybe there's an addition to the motion of what will be done with the survey, like where it will be used in, or at least like a statement that it will be used, because we would like to see it in like the advocacy platform, for example, and now we fear that it may just be lost after the survey is done.
Point of information from Kat. From Gabriel.
Gabriel, President, just a point of information about the practice in EPSA. Every single investigation that is concluded or survey that data that is collected is brought then to the members to decide what to do. So even if this is not added to the motion, the data will be brought to you to decide how to advocate for it, and every single position that we might or might not write based on that data will have to go through you with at least I don't remember, but the regulated time for review, so you will have time to review it and also give input on how to utilize the data for advocacy.
Thank you. We will take no more points on this because there was a 9.3, and the 9.3 was on the voting on the amendment of the motion, which was still not voted upon. So we now have to vote on the amendment of the motion. Then we will go back to the original motion and open the floor for discussion again. So please, sorry for the confusion. I hope it's clarified. We are not taking any more points. Is it clarified? Is it clear that we will now vote on this amendment? Thank you. We will not take any more points. So I will ask, who is abstaining for technical from Gabriel?
Gabriel, President, I don't think that all of the members are clear on the procedure. I saw that APA was bringing clarification, so maybe it would be good to explain exactly again. But I know it's the third option, and that even I didn't understand it the first time, so it would be good to appreciate.
Okay, then I will repeat it again, APA, and for everybody. So we had a proposal for an amendment on the motion, proposed by APEF and seconded by BPHD. The amendment was discussed. There was a 9.3 on the amendment. It was voted upon, so the 9.3 closed the discussion on the amendment, and now we will proceed on to voting on the amendment. After we have voted, we can discuss again the motion and propose other amendments, or then proceed to voting on the motion that was or not amended. Is this clear? Gabriel?
Gabriel, President, as I still see some confusion in the room, maybe I'll try to complement it. Basically, if you vote for, then the motion that's on the screen will be discussed. If you vote against, then we will go back to the original motion by BPSA, and that will be discussed. Basically.
Okay, then we will proceed on to voting. And I will ask if there are any abstentions on the amendment. If anyone is against the amendment. And who is for the amendment on this motion? And we have 19 votes for, 2 against and 1 abstention, so the amendment is carried. And sorry, technical pause.
because we are missing one member, so we will redo the voting on the amendment. So please pay attention when I call up the voting. So I will ask again, are there any abstentions on the amendment of this motion? Who is against amending this motion as it reads? And who is for? Nopsa, up your voting card, please, up high so we can see it. Okay, and we have 20 votes for, 2 against, and 1 abstention. So the amendment is carried. A point of information from, and I open the floor for discussion on the motion, and we have a point of information from Almo.
Annika, up Austria, we really don't find this acceptable. You misread what was happening, then you did a point, then we thought, okay, you're confused, so we are going to tell you that we haven't voted yet and that the floor is closed. Then you kept taking points, and then suddenly you decided you're going to close the floor now because before it was voted on it. So, and you didn't take any points anymore. It's just like we really feel ignored as an association because we tried. We were told that we are wrong, and then you took more points, and then you realized, oh no, it's different. Like, could you please just adhere to the rules and go according? And we really feel ignored. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakob, and we apologize on behalf of, I apologize on behalf of the PC. And we'll try to keep this as clear and as fruitful from now on. Are there any new points on this motion? Jakob?
Annika Afab, Austria. So we do see the points that were done after the closing of the discussion of the amendment, but we would still like to have some sort of publishing of the results that is not only sent to Alexis, if we understood it correctly, maybe we didn't understand it correctly, or to the advocacy platform coordinators, but actually stated somewhere. Thank you.
Point of information from Gabriel.
Gabriel, President. Yeah, just to explain again, we never collected to just have it lost in the library, so it will be published. What we were saying is that the members are always consulting on how to publish it, how to use the data. Like we make a proposal for a position or something, and then we consult members on it, and they have access to both the data and the positions that we do, so they can suggest any changes to everything from the promotional strategy of the position to the content of the position itself.
We have a technical from BPSA.
Priyanka, BPSA UK, could we amend this to say, from the Fox Suitable Students' perspective, and publish a declaration accordingly?
Okay. Does the proposer and the seconder agree? Technical from Ahmed?
This was not a technical, I was not personal, this was not a technical at all, and I had a point to answer to Gabriel that can actually change the way of discussing.
Okay, thank you. Technical from BPSA?
On the BPSA notification, BPSA would love the audience to not laugh or make noises. That's very careful. That's the end of the laughing. Thank you.
Thank you, BPSA. So I will ask again, does APEP and PPHD agree with the motion, with the modification that BPSA has proposed? Okay, we will proceed with the speaking list. And we had clarification from BPSA?
My apologies, I'm Director of BPSA UK, sorry. If I do want to propose an amendment, how would I do that?
If you want to propose an amendment, you have to do a new point.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other new points on the agenda, on the speaking list? Any other new points on this motion? Is that a technical or a direct?
Out of Austria, we had to direct before the whole confusion started. Was it lost on the way? Or do we have to make a new point out of it because there were technicals and clarifications in between? Thank you. Yep.
Yes, we have made all of the directs that have been raised into new points, so we will take them on the list that we have, and we had first BPSA with the new point.
Director of BPSA UK, could we amend the motion to read from a pharmaceutical student's perspective and publish a declaration accordingly?
Does the proposer agree with the amendment that was proposed by BPSA? Yes, Saka?
Well, in Portugal, we actually don't, because we think that GA is not the only place where we can discuss things and actually vote for things. So what we would suggest is to conduct the survey, and then in the advocacy platform representatives meeting, for example, we can actually decide together how we should tackle this and continue all the work on this matter.
There is general agreement, and the amendment is not. The proposer does not agree, so the amendment is not. Should we ask if there is a seconder to this amendment first? To the amendment that BPSA proposed. Is there a seconder to the amendment that BPSA proposed? Okay, so there is an amendment to this motion proposed by BPSA and seconded by AFOP. And we are opening the floor for discussion on this amendment. Gabriel?
Mr. President, as it is seems involved in the advocacy topic, I would like to ask the floor to not go into circles because we just have an amendment to take off the written declaration. Now you have an amendment to put it on, and this will relate.
Thank you. There was a 9.3 proposed by BPSA Poland and seconded by SHSSPD Slovenia. I open the floor for discussion on the 9.3. Gabriel?
Mr. President, I close the floor for discussion.
And we will proceed to voting on the 9.3 to end the discussion on the amendment that was proposed by BPSA UK and seconded by AFOP Austria. I will ask if there are any abstentions on the 9.3. Is anyone against the 9.3? And who is for the 9.3? Please raise your voting cards up high still because we did not announce the result of the vote. And we have 23 votes for, none against and no abstentions, so the discussion on the amendment of this motion is ended, and we will proceed on to voting on the amendment itself. So I will ask if there are any abstentions. The discussion is over. I'm sorry.
Could you please clarify, if you're now voting on an amendment that BPSA...
Yes, the amendment that BPSA proposed and was seconded by AFOP Austria. So we will ask If there are any abstentions on the amendment? Is anyone against? And who is for the amendment? Voting cards up high, because it is not. Please. SFD, what is your vote? Will you vote for? Since it's unclear, we will repeat the voting procedure. I will repeat. Who is abstaining on the amendment that reads, that was proposed by PPSA United Kingdom and was seconded by AFOP Austria? Okay. Is anyone against the amendment? And who is for the amendment? And we have 3 abstentions, 17 against, and 3 for, so the amendment is not carried, and we will come back to the previous motion. We have a 9.3 proposed by AFOP Austria, seconded by PPSA Poland, and I will open the floor for discussion on the 9.3. Gabriel?
Mr. President, I close the floor for discussion on 9.3.
Okay, and we will proceed on to voting on the 9.3. Who is any abstentions on the 9.3? Who is against? And who votes for? And we have 23 votes for, none against, and no abstentions. So the 9.3 is carried, and the discussion on this motion is finished. And I will read the motion again. The 64th EPSA General Assembly mandates the EPSA Executive to conduct a survey regarding the LGBTQI+ community from the pharmaceutical students' perspective. This shall be achieved by the 66th General Assembly and shall not be reviewed. I will ask if there are any abstentions. Who is against? And who votes for? And we have 21 votes for, 1 against, and 1 abstention. So the motion is carried. Thank you for the excitement. Gabriel Technical.
Gabriel President, thank you so much for the discussion. I hope this continues during the year during APR meetings, advocacy platform meetings. And with this, let's go to lunch. I ask Elisa to do the roll call and we'll continue under motions after.
And Elisa?
Elisa Section, AFOP Austria, VFSO Belgium, VPHSA Bulgaria, CPSA Croatia, CPSA Czech Republic, SOS Denmark, Amazon, VPHA...
The standing order are still in place.
GPSA Greece, LGSA Latvia, SFD Lithuania, MPSA North Macedonia, KPC the Netherlands, MPSA Poland, AFOP Portugal, FOSTA Romania, NAFTA Serbia, SPSA Slovakia, SPSA Slovenia, PEP Spain, AFOP Switzerland, NAFTA Latvia, AFOP Switzerland, UPSA International Turkey, VPSA United Kingdom.
Elisa?
Elisa second, I've collected 23 voting cards.
And I suspend the standing orders. Let's go eat, people!